Hey guys, welcome to the show. Around the nation right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Big show today. We've got a lot of stuff about Kavanaugh. We're going to talk about the new allegations from the third accuser. That's on today's show. We'll start out with that, of course. Then we have Jeff Flake, predictably flaking out over Kavanaugh. We'll talk about that as well. We have Fox News hosts defending, of course, Kavanaugh. It's a big surprise on that one. Not really. So we've got that. Of course, a couple of non-Kavanaugh related stories as well. But that's basically the day. We're going to be talking a lot about the hearing. We're talking about a lot about the accusers and things like that. So, oh boy. Strap in. It's going to be an interesting day. So, on that, that's what we've got today planned for the show. Guys, please share the stream if you haven't already. You can also support the show, super chats, and go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/TYTNation, all that stuff. Okay. So I might as well let's just let's dive into it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Brett Kavanaugh's week continues to get worse. It's now being reported that a third woman has come forward to accuse Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of some pretty terrible behavior during high school. Now, this woman is named Julie Swetnick. Now, she released a sworn declaration that says that she had attended well over 10 house parties with Brett Kavanaugh and his friend Mark Judge. Now, Mark Judge, of course, is the one, is the friend that is sticking up for Kavanaugh and saying, oh, no, he didn't do anything. He was great. And in fact, he's not even getting a subpoena to testify. And he's refusing to testify. Like, nope, I'm not interested in testifying. In fact, I'm going to go hide on a beach somewhere. And, of course, where did they find him? On a beach. Interesting. Now, according to this woman, she had went to these parties, and she said, look, I witnessed Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh drink excessively and engage in highly inappropriate conduct, including being over-aggressive with girls and also not taking no for an answer. So, wow. Now, this conduct, she said, included the fondling of grabbing of girls without consent. Look, going back to that first accuser, she was saying, I was grabbed without consent. Second accuser, same thing, Deborah Ramirez. She said, he literally put his junk in my face without my consent. You know what that's known as? That's sexual assault. That fits a pattern. Christine Blasey Ford, of course, is the first accuser to have come out. She alleged attempted rape. Deborah Ramirez, of course, I just told you about that accusation. So, look, a lot of this goes back to what kind of person Kavanaugh is. Now, that, of course, contradicts wildly from the choir boy image that he had portrayed during a Fox News interview. Because, of course, where are you going to go? You're going to go to Fox News. But wait, I thought a judge is supposed to be nonpartisan. No, incredibly partisan. Now, Swetnick, of course, released her sworn statement through lawyer Michael Avenatti. Now, look, I got thoughts about Michael Avenatti. I think he's definitely a self-serving lawyer, bit of a sleazy guy, trying to run for president. Ridiculous, right? At the same time, this is a sworn affidavit. This is under penalty of perjury. So this is no joke. If she is found to be lying, which I don't believe that she is, then that will have significant legal penalties. You don't just do this lightly. Not only that, but this woman She says she currently holds an active security clearance and works within the federal government. So, again, you're going to put your career on the line, which is what she's doing. Career on the line, name on the line, reputation on the line, security clearance on the line, all that stuff. So this is very, very high stakes for her to put out these accusations. Now, she also said Kavanaugh's recent claim on Fox News, going back to that interview, regarding his alleged innocence during his high school years and lack of sexual activity is, quote, absolutely false and a lie. Remember, he goes on Fox News and says, me, no, have sex in high school. Virgin until college. I just couldn't. I mean, I was surrounded by all these drunk girls, and I was going to all these keggers, 100 kegs or bust, but never had sex with a girl. I mean, no, no. I only had like maybe a couple of beers here and there, but I was always a very good little angel. Bullshit. That's what she's saying. Bullshit. I mean, look, you just want to look at the yearbook, right? Again, there's the yearbook. There's even the there is even the piece of evidence that Kavanaugh himself had brought, saying, "No, look at my calendar. The first accuser, wrong. It wasn't even on the calendar. The party." Well, what's funny? This third accusation says, "Look, all this stuff happened during Beach Week. And the calendar just so happened to have mentioned Beach Week." Not looking good for him. Not looking good at all. Now there's more. Liz Swisher described herself as a friend of Mr. Kavanaugh in college, said she was shocked that he had strongly denied drinking to the point of blacking out. So this goes back to, of course, how prolifically he drank during high school, which again, I don't necessarily care about the drinking part, but the rest of it is really interesting. She said, Brett was a sloppy drunk, and I know because I drank with him. I watched him drink more than a lot of people. He'd end up slurring his words and stumbling. Another former classmate, James Roche, said Mr. Kavanaugh frequently drank to the point of incoherence. Quote, he hung up with the football players and soccer players, and they drank a lot and were bros. Now, Mr. Roche briefly shared a room with Mr. Kavanaugh during their freshman year, said in an interview earlier this month, and in a statement Tuesday after the Fox News interview, in which he apparently lied to the country. He said, "Oh no, I barely drink at all. No, I'm a good boy. I hardly touch the stuff. Hardly touch that beer." No, Roche described Mr. Kavanaugh as, quote, a notably heavy drinker who became aggressive and belligerent when he was very drunk. No, so that's really important, right? Aggressive and belligerent. Back to Swetnick. She wrote, I witnessed Brett Kavanaugh consistently engage in excessive drinking and inappropriate contact of a sexual nature with women during the 1980s. Again, that doesn't match up with what he said on Fox News. Now, Lynn Brooks, there's another former classmate, was actually a college roommate of one of the women accusing Mr. Kavanaugh, said the nominee's comments on Fox did not match the classmate that she remembered. Quote, he's trying to paint himself as some sort of choir boy. Now, Ms. Brooks, of course, is a Republican and former pharma executive who had recalled an encounter with a drunken Mr. Kavanaugh at a fraternity event. You can't lie your way onto the Supreme Court. And with that statement out, he's gone too far. It's about the integrity of that institution. Now, this is a former classmate, was there, ran into him, no question. She's a Republican and a pharma executive. I'm just saying, those are the people that are speaking out against Kavanaugh, right? And look, here's the thing. Being a sloppy drunk is one thing, right? Again, I don't really care about that. I've gotten drunk before. I've also never raped anybody. I've also never sexually assaulted anybody. So there's a bit of a difference here, right? Now, the problem is what Kavanaugh is alleged to have done at these parties. And that's where the devil's in the details. And here are the details. Swetnick claims that Kavanaugh, and this is where it becomes disastrous. She claims that as a high school student in the early 80s, with others, ended up spiking the drinks of girls at house parties with grain alcohol or drugs to, quote, cause girls to lose inhibitions and their ability to say no. Gets worse. Swetnick said these efforts by Kavanaugh and his buddy, Mark Judge, were done so that the girls could then be gang raped in a side room or bedroom by a train of numerous boys. She even claimed that I had become a victim of one such rape where Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh were present. She said during the incident, I was incapacitated without my consent and unable to fight off the boys raping me. I believe I was drugged using Quaaludes or something similar placed into what I was drinking. Now, this story comes out one day, by the way, and this is sort of related, but not really related to Kavanaugh himself. But Bill Cosby had pretty much done the same thing. He would drug their drinks and then sexually assault them. That behavior is widespread, and of course Cosby had been doing that for years. And the last time he did it, he was at the tender age of 67. So I'm just saying, you do it once, there's a good chance you might do it again. But anyway, she said that she shared the story of her own alleged gang rape, which she says took place around 1982 with at least 2 other people shortly after it had occurred. So that story, of course, is absolutely horrifying. Now, there's more. If that's not bad enough, and again, it's bad. It's horrific. No, it's worse. She says that Kavanaugh and Judge targeted specific women. She said it was usually a girl that was especially vulnerable because she was alone at the party or shy. So not only were they doing this, right, but they were picking out women like, hey, I know she looks like a good mark. She looks like somebody I can take advantage of. That's it. Done. If this is true, gone. That's predatory behavior. This is somebody saying, this is somebody being a predator. This is somebody that says, no, you don't understand. It's worse than what everybody was talking about before. It's not just, he gets drunk and then he acts super inappropriately, right? No, that's not that anymore. Okay, that was the argument before. This new allegation says, no, this was a targeted behavior. This was predatory in nature. This is him picking people out in order to basically create rape trains. That is disastrous. And as I said before, this is an affidavit. This is signed under perjury, right? The penalty of perjury. It's not a random accusation. That is very, very serious. Again, she works for the government. She has put everything on the line in order to make this accusation. This is not something that is super, super light. Especially consider the very contentious nature and the fact that the first accuser has already gotten threats and have been chased out of her home. There have been numerous violent threats directed towards her and her family. For someone else to go and say, look, I've got a story, I shared my story, and now I'm going to share it with the world, you are literally putting yourself into the line of fire in some cases. So, I mean, man, look, and here's the disturbing, like, this is old, incredibly disturbing. With this third person out, here you still have the Republicans saying, we're not going to budge. We're going to still hold this confirmation vote on Friday. They don't care. They don't care. If they don't delay the vote to allow for an investigation, then they're saying, we don't care at all about this. Sexual assault, these incredibly serious allegations, which now, again, okay, one accuser, you can say, all right, look, this one accuser, this doesn't necessarily establish a pattern. We should look into it, but it is just one accuser. Now you have three accusers, which are all establishing the same kind of pattern. And they still want to go forward with this confirmation hearing. That's what they want to do. They're saying we care more about playing politics than people's lives. And look, here's the saddest thing. Republicans know that an investigation will take time, right? So that means that, oh, here come the midterms. Those are coming up. We're expecting to lose in the midterms. We're not going to have enough time if we make Kavanaugh pull his his nomination. We make him bow out or whatever. We're not going to have enough time to appoint someone before the midterms. We're afraid we're going to lose those midterms. So what are we going to do? We have decided as a party to play politics. We have decided as a party to ram through Kavanaugh, even with these horrific accusations that are against him. That's who the Republican Party is. They are pushing this guy no matter what. When in reality, he could be an absolute monster. It is disgusting. It is purely political by the Republican Party. And, man, this guy gets on the Supreme Court with these allegations hanging over his head. For one, it's very, very difficult to impeach a sitting Supreme Court justice. For good reason, of course. But putting him in charge of really, really important decisions, especially considering women's health and reproductive rights and the rights of women, with this hanging over his head, no. Can't do it. Okay. Disaster story. All right. Let's move on. Republican profiles in courage. Senator Jeff Flake just can't seem to figure out where his spine is located. Now, during a floor speech, he basically waffled between, oh, I'm attacking Trump, and then calling for, get this, I want to call for civility on both sides. Now, he said, quote, I do not believe that a claim of sexual assault is invalid because if a 15-year-old girl didn't promptly report the assault to the authorities, as the President of the United States said just 2 days ago. So he's like, look at me. I am a civil Republican, and, I'm going to give her the basic of respect and not blame the victim. Wow, look at me. I am Jeff Flake, and I am such a reasonable Republican. I am a reasonable man. He said, how uninformed and uncaring do you have to be to say things like that? You'd have to be Donald Trump, much less believe them. Do you have any idea what kind of message that sends, especially to young women? How many times do we have to marginalize and ignore women before we learn that important lesson? Okay, look, yeah, I have no problems with the statements themselves, or at least that statement, because it's like, basically it's like, well, hey, look, we should actually respect women, and we should actually not attack women or ignore them when they come up with terrible accusations like this, right? Of terrible things happening to them. There's Jeff Flake saying, I'm going to attempt to be an actual regular human being and a decent human being at that. Okay, fair enough, right? Now, That, of course, is in response to Donald Trump, who said, why didn't somebody call the FBI 36 years ago? I mean, you could say, when did all this happen? What's going on? And he also said that afterwards, that the allegations are nothing but a con game being played by the Democrats. So saying, I don't believe them. Why didn't you come out sooner? Why didn't you come out sooner? Now, look, it's pretty low-hanging fruit to go after Donald Trump on this because, of course, as usual, Trump tends to have the most, like, the worst takes imaginable on this, right? So why am I mad at Jeff Flake, you might be wondering? Well, he also called for, as I said, civility on both sides. He said that Republican and Democratic senators have turned Kavanaugh and Ford into, quote, unwitting combatants in an undeclared war. Quote, if we cannot have a human rather than a political response to these witnesses, if we are heedless to the capacity that we have to do real and lasting damage, then maybe we shouldn't be here. He furthermore says, I do not know how I will assess the credibility of these witnesses, these human beings, and the grave matters that will be testified to, because I have not yet heard a word of their testimony. And because I am not psychic, I am not gifted with clairvoyance. He's basically saying, hear Kavanaugh out. I just need to hear him out. I need to hear him and his side. And then, of course, I also need to hear our guys, or I should say the woman that we hired, because we're too afraid to ask these questions, because we know there's going to be a gigantic political blowback. We need to hear them grill this woman about her experience. And she is willing to testify. She's going to be testifying tomorrow, along with Kavanaugh. So that's what he's saying. I need to hear them both out. I need to hear them both out before I can even make any sort of judgment. Now, that might sound reasonable, but again, look at the three accusers that have just come out. That last one, the most damaging, signed an affidavit under penalty of perjury outlining how Kavanaugh is even worse than we had imagined. But here you have Jeff Flake saying, I don't know, man. I got to listen to both sides. Both sides, both sides. Look, what there is that there seems to be a pattern that has emerged here. Now, look, if there was one accuser and it was pretty vague, you know, you could say, okay, look, yeah, I will listen to both sides. It'll be fine. But there is a pattern now. There is a very clear pattern that has been shown here. And there have been a lot of people that have been speaking out against Kavanaugh, former classmates, saying that Fox News interview, for example, full of lies and misconceptions. He is not the angel that he paints himself to be. So it appears that he is absolutely lying about what he was like in high school. And that's sexual assault allegations and rape allegations aside. But Flake continues, he says, these are human beings with families and children. Each is suffering through a very ugly process that we have created. Now, you know who created this? Kavanaugh, by allegedly raping people. Just saying. Now, he says that he doesn't believe Kavanaugh is some kind of serial sexual predator, nor does he think Christine Blasey Ford is part of a vast conspiracy to smear him. Then where do you stand, Jeff Flake? Where do you stand? Not only that, but he says that there is a toxic culture on both sides. Both sides. Oh, see, both sides are doing it. There's bad people on both sides, but there's also good people on both sides too. Very, very fine people. Really, really. Talk about not having a spine whatsoever. He is basically both sidesing this argument. That's amazing. Why are we not calling for a halt and an investigation? There absolutely needs to be an investigation. But right now, the Republican Party is attempting to push through Judge Kavanaugh. They want him, they want to vote for him on Friday. You know who could actually stop that? Jeff Flake. Flake is actually a member of the Judiciary Committee and one of the few GOP senators who have yet to say how they will vote on Kavanaugh's nomination. He is literally the swing vote. They need him. And yet here he is. He's doing the both sides nonsense. Jesus, man. He's not even say. I don't know. I don't know. I don't believe you, but I also don't believe you. We all know what side Jeff Flake is going to come out on. Very, very likely he's going to be like, you know what? We're going to let him go forward because again, we don't know yet. We just don't know. Look, he talks the talk. Flake does. But in every piece of legislation or everything the Republican Party wants, here's Jeff Flake saying, or actually, here's Jeff Flake voting for it. He says flowery language, flowery words. Oh, we must be civil. That we must stop this toxic atmosphere and give everyone a fair chance and make sure to be fair to the families. But at the same time, he's allowing somebody who is an alleged monster to sail through. Or he very likely will. I will be very, very surprised if Jeff Flake actually stands up and says, you know what? No, we are going to halt this process and we are going to do a very thorough investigation. We are going to look into these and we are going to say, we are not going to let Kavanaugh be appointed without looking in and finding the facts. Will Jeff Flake do that? No. Jeff Flake will not. It is look, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I have a very sneaking suspicion that Jeff Flake is going to fold like he always does. Flowery words, but no action. That's Jeff Flake. Okay. I'm going to take a quick break here. We'll come back. We've got Fox News, and this is, of course, prior to the newest accusation here. But we have Brian Kilmeade freaking out. And then we have Tucker Carlson doing what Tucker Carlson always does. So stay right here. Make sure to share the stream, and we'll be right back. Round the Nation. everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, Jeff Waldorf. Okay, so we have been doing a subscriber drive, right? Trying to get to 100,000. I have to announce a good announcement. No, we're not quite at 100,000 yet, but we have hit 89,000 subscribers. So thank you guys. I appreciate that. We are getting so much closer, and it's thanks to you guys. All right. So, hey, that's good news all around. All right. Now, let me see if we have any super chats to answer. I don't think I saw any, but going to check anyway. All right. So, cool. Let's get back into more stories. Let's go to Fox News. Okay. So following some of the allegations against Brett Kavanaugh, Fox and Friends host Brian Kilmeade decided he was going to defend Kavanaugh by launching into an angry rant about whether or not you should be able to go back into the past and, for people that did crimes and actually expose those crimes. Let's watch.
So that's what, and I was at back to school night last night for my 10th and 12th grader. And little did I know, I was just trying to see if they have blown any shot at any success in life in 10th and 12th grade. Because that's what I'm getting from this whole process. Well, when in doubt, go back to high school and college, even if you're in your 50s.
But there are serious allegations that have been leveled against Mr. Kavanaugh by Dr. Christine Ford.
They're serious.
They are serious.
They're serious, but they're unproven.
Okay, let me stop there. Oh, they're going to go back to your high school days. I mean, back to when you're, when in doubt, go back to college, right? Go back to, even if you're in your 50s. It doesn't matter how old you are. Crime is crime. And again, it's not as if he is up for, prison sentence, right? It's not as if he's going to get arrested tomorrow because of this. He is up for a job interview. Look, the thing is, if you do stuff like this, there are consequences, right? Now, I thought, Brian Kilmeade, you're supposed to be conservative, right? You're supposed to be in favor of personal responsibility. So if you do something like this, and you have very credible allegations against you that fit a pattern of these allegations, right? Of this pattern or of this kind of behavior, then, yeah, don't be surprised if it comes back to haunt you later. I mean, again, attempted rape and sexual assault and rape is a serious crime, even if you're a high schooler at the time. But the whole framing here from Fox, or for at least from Kilmeade, is, oh no, what we're doing is we can't punish people by going back into their past and finding a crime and then destroying their lives with it. That's funny. For one, this isn't destroying Kavanaugh's life. This is a job interview from an incredibly prestigious position. Not going to go to jail. He's not going to be arrested by this. He's not facing prison. He's already a judge. He might be okay after he gets, if he doesn't get this job. I'm just saying. He'll survive. Yeah, he's going to take some hits to his reputation if this is true. But if it's true, he should take a hit to his reputation because these are very serious, terrible allegations. But anyway, it is funny how Steve Doocy is suddenly the voice of reason here. I mean, jeez. He's like, wait a second. These are serious allegations. Just to let you know, these are very serious, and we should not dismiss them. Hey, that didn't stop Kilmeade, though. He continues.
People to go in life and say, okay, let's go back to high school to stop you from moving forward. I mean, I heard of your transcript mattering in 9th grade for college, but I didn't know your 9th and 10th grade actions could really reflect on what happens in Supreme Court.
It matters if you rape people. I'm sorry, there's no expiration here on like when you should actually take rape and sexual assault seriously. If it happened in high school, it still actually happened. And so, I don't know, maybe it needs to be addressed. I mean, again, what part of an alleged attempted rape is Brian Kilmeade not understanding? Kind of makes you think, well, what's Brian Kilmeade afraid of? Rape is about as serious as you can get. And look, besides, I don't know if you understand, like, if you remember this, right? But Republicans literally asked the former president to go back to his birth. There's a crazy fringe that think, oh no, President Obama, not born in America. We're going to go back to his past and make him prove that he was born in America. We want to see his college transcripts from decades ago, because we're not sure that he actually did as well as he said he did in college. This is stuff Republicans were asking for just a few years ago. Oh, where's the birth certificate? Where's the college transcript? We got to go back to your past and see if you were lying or not. But when it comes to serious allegations of rape and sexual assault, well, I mean, no, can't go back. How dare you go back to his past? What are you trying to do to him? I mean, now I got to go back and see if my 10th and 12th graders are not messing it up for the rest of their lives. What? Seriously? Seriously. Come on, guys. Come on. This is about as hypocritical as Fox can get. But again, to be fair, Brian, Steve Doocy was like, well, this is pretty serious, so maybe we shouldn't dismiss this. We should probably actually look into it. The voice of freaking reason. Doocy. But Kilmeade, no. Kilmeade, again, makes you wonder. Now, here's the other thing, right? Imagine if President Obama tried to appoint, instead of Merrick Garland, which, by the way, Merrick Garland, I've had a ton of problems with Merrick Garland. Why? He's milquetoast centrist, right? So he's one of those people who's like, okay, classic Obama move, right? Let's appoint Merrick Garland because we think some of the Republicans might like him. How many Republicans voted in favor of Merrick Garland? None, because there wasn't even a vote. They didn't even hold a hearing. They refused to hold a hearing for over a year for Merrick Garland. But just imagine, right? If the Republicans weren't quite as obstructionist, I know it's a crazy thought, right? That they appoint somebody who was a black liberal justice, right? So you get a black liberal justice, but wait, there are allegations that there was some sexual assault in high school. Now, I wonder if Brian Kilmeade would say, how dare you go back to high school and try to ruin this person's future? Do you think that Kilmeade would be making the exact same argument if it were a black liberal justice that had been appointed during the Obama administration? Can you imagine that? If you look, we don't know for certain, but I can take a guess. Again, these are serious allegations. They should be investigated. If they're true, then this guy's done. He is absolutely done and should not be on the Supreme Court or any judgeship, period. Okay. If you thought you saw the bottom of the barrel, oh no, my friends. The bottom is yet to come. Tucker Carlson continues to sink to brand new, exciting lows. During one of his recent broadcasts, following the allegations against Judge Brett Kavanaugh, he decided that, you know what would be great? Let's blame the victim. Watch.
Let me ask you a very specific question about Christine Ford. And you're suggesting that you're not allowed to disbelieve somebody, but I retain my right of reason, and I can determine as an adult and a U.S. citizen whether I believe the evidence or not. and until they come from him, I'm going to do that. But let me ask you this. Does she have a responsibility? She's claiming that this man sexually assaulted her and it altered the course of her life. She can't fly on airplanes. It's affected her relationship with men. He's a predator. She didn't tell anybody his name for 36 years, during which time he got married. He interacted with many others in our population. Sex offenders tend to commit serial sex crimes. Doesn't she have an obligation to tell someone to stop him from doing that if he is, in fact, a sex criminal? Where's her obligation here? What about the rest of us? If he's actually a sex criminal, we have a right to know that, and she has an obligation to tell us. And I know it's hard, but why don't we have a right to know? If there's a rapist on the loose, if you don't tell anybody, if Bernie Madoff rips you off and you don't tell his others and investors, you're part of the problem, are you not?
Wow. Wow. So, basically, why didn't you speak up? I mean, if you don't warn the rest of us after getting brutally assaulted, sexually assaulted by a rapist, well then, you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. How could you not protect the rest of us from this horrible rapist? Wow, dude. Man. There is no bottom to that barrel. We just keep going lower. So, Tucker Carlson, and maybe I'm sure the defenders will be like, oh, you're taking him out of context. He was just asking a question. He was just asking a question to this liberal, radio host. By the way, that's Ethan Berman. So, the video is Tucker Carlson takes on liberal radio host. And it's ridiculous, right? This isn't a contest. This is, hey, a Supreme Court justice nominee may have raped, done a horrible sexual assault to women in his high school days. And we're having a discussion on, well, is it the victim's responsibility to warn everyone else? Now, here's the thing. He says, well, I realize it's hard. No, Tucker, you don't realize how difficult it actually is. See, like me, you were a white male who has never had to experience anything like this. You ask any woman how difficult it would be to come out, especially someone who has survived sexual assault. You're going to find that it's actually incredibly, horrifically difficult to come forward with these sorts of accusations. Just to even admit to other close family members that something like this happened. I mean, here's the thing. When you come out with this, first of all, what you receive a lot of is shame, right? There is a big shameful element to this. So these women have, feel like, oh, why couldn't I fight them up? And of course, there is not just internal shame, right? Which isn't their fault, but there's also external shame. There are people shaming them and saying, why did you let this happen? There's the shame. There's the attacks, of course, against them. There's the threats against them. There's even people that are being put in extreme danger, which has happened to Christine Blasey Ford. Ever since she went out, she was literally chased from her home. That's the reason why rape doesn't get reported in this country, or sexual assault. It is because of the backlash, right? And again, there are the questions. Why didn't you fight him off? Why did you go out at night? Why did you drink? Why didn't you tell him no? Why were you wearing such a short skirt? Why were you dressed like that? I mean, of course, if you dress like that, you go out and you should expect to get sexually assaulted. Why did you lead him on? It is always the woman's fault when it comes to rape, never anyone else's. That's the message here. In reality, it is 100% the fault of the rapist. I mean, it's actually been shown that the best way to prevent rape and sexual assault is not to rape people. I don't know why this is very, very difficult to understand. But some people apparently don't get it. Don't understand that, hey, maybe if men didn't rape and sexually assault women, we wouldn't have rape and sexual assault. Maybe Tucker Carlson should take that into consideration before he blames the victims for not coming forward. And by the way, speaking of coming forward, there was the first victim, Christine Blasey Ford. Deborah Ramirez, the second accuser, she, had some doubts about coming forward. She admits, hey, man, I was drinking at the time. Again, that's part of our culture, right? Where we put it on the woman, how dare you have a drink? But we don't blame Brett Kavanaugh for apparently being a sloppy-ass drunk and doing these things. Oh, no, it's her fault because she had a drink. And then if she misremembers, again, that's her fault, right? Or we accuse her of misremembering. Or anyway, she said, look, I admit that I was drinking. I had a few drinks. I was there. But I took the time. I went through my thoughts. I made sure that it was 100% Kavanaugh. That I have no doubts in my mind that it was Brett Kavanaugh that did this, right? That's the second accuser. Now there's a third accuser, right? And to be fair, Tucker Carlson did this segment last night, so he didn't even know about the third accuser. That third accuser, much, much worse, right? Much, much worse. Accusing Kavanaugh of running rape trains. And then her being a victim of said train after, of course, he had allegedly, along with Mark Judge, allegedly spiked the drinks for some of these women at the parties. So that's even worse, man. And then, of course, you tell Tucker Carlson that a lot of this information. He's like, well, why didn't they come out then? Why didn't they come out earlier? And that seems to be the prevailing narrative here is, well, if this was so bad, why not come out? Because of all the reasons that I stated before. Again, women who come out are immediately attacked. So other women stay silent. This is not hard. This is not a difficult thing to understand. When you attack women that come out, you can also simultaneously say, well, I mean, what? Yeah, why didn't you come out? Well, it's because I'm getting attacked. I mean, is anybody questioning the men who were molested by the priests? No. Why didn't anybody say to the men, why didn't you come out earlier? Well, come on, man. They shouldn't be questioned. But what I'm trying to say is, here's the thing. Between these two situations, nobody's questioning the victims of the Catholic sex scandal, right? Nobody's questioning them. But when it comes to the women, and this is also part of why it's become so partisan, right? You have partisan people like Tucker Carlson saying it absolutely didn't happen, and if it did, why didn't you warn us? Trying to assign the blame to the victim here. And that's gross. But my point is, people often believe men more than they do women. And let's be honest, it takes a lot of courage for any victim of sexual assault, whether you be a man or a woman, right? Because look, men get raped. It doesn't happen as much, that's for sure. But nonetheless, it's still a pretty bad experience from what I understand. And for men, it's also difficult to come out, but not as difficult as it is to come out as a woman. And neither should be minimized, neither should be ignored, dismissed, or otherwise. And of course, certainly to get back on the topic, victims of these crimes should never ever be blamed for the actions of rapists. And by asking that question, Tucker Carlson has literally proved that he is the worst. Okay. I think I'm fairly clear on that. All right. We have one more story here. Non-Kavanaugh related. Holy crap. And we'll do that. Quick break. We'll come back. We'll do the last story here. If you have any comments or questions or super chats, please do that now. Till then, we'll come back. More show. So stay right here around the nation. Welcome back to the show. Run the Nation right here, Jeff Waldorf. All right, let's jump into the final story. Something that I've been trying to do for the last couple of days, but I keep running out of time. Today, we have enough time. So let's get into it. Switching gears for the last story, we have immigrant detention. Lovely. All right. President Trump is now facing a backlash after his administration announced plans to divert nearly $200 million from health programs to funding the detention of unaccompanied migrant children caught crossing the border. Now, the Department of Health and Human Services had notified Congress in a letter last week that it plans to transfer as much as $186 million from its programs to help cover the costs of the growing number of children being stopped at the U.S.-Mexico border. Now, this transfer would affect several health programs, including the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which would lose about $16.7 million. Medicare and Medicaid, that would lose about $9.8 million, withdrawn from funding for program operations, not benefits, to be fair, as well as $87.3 million overall from the National Institutes of Health, according to The Hill. Because let's just take money from these programs to fund child detention, which is literally costing billions of dollars already. Now, this is different, right? This is different from the child separation policy, which is a policy. There was a recent memo found that was signed by Kirstjen Nielsen that basically outlined the policy for separating kids at the border. Now, they claim for months, oh, no, there's no policy. There's no official policy of child separation at the border. Come on. Just liberal conspiracy theories, right? No, there's an actual policy. And that policy has cost a ton of money. But again, that is separate. Now, the cost of that, by the way, that's over $750 per child in the house in these tent cities. It's actually cheaper to put them with other people, put them in homes, right? And it's actually even more better to send them to live with a relative or an immediate family member. But these are unaccompanied children who I'm talking about. Now, these kids also might have relatives living in the United States, but those relatives might also be undocumented. And now guess what the Trump administration is doing about that? Last week, Immigration and Customs Enforcement senior official Matthew Albence testified to Congress that after HHS and ICE signed a memorandum of agreement to background check and fingerprint potential sponsors of immigrant children, ICE arrested 41 people who came forward. In response to an inquiry from CNN, an ICE official confirmed that 70% of those arrests were for immigration violations, meaning that they were arrested because ICE discovered that they were here illegally. Well, now wait a minute here. So, look, when it comes to background checks and all that for making sure that you place these unaccompanied children in decent homes, that makes all the sense in the world. But, and I even talked about that the last time I did a story related about that. But, of course, you guys said, hey, wait a minute. Do you really want Border Patrol? Do you really want people, the government, being able to basically track these people? What do you think they're going to do with that information? They're going to hand it over to ICE, and they're going to arrest people, and that's exactly what happened. 70% of those arrests. Now, look, there's got to be a way to keep them out of the hands of traffickers, but handing that information over to ICE so they can make immigration arrests for people who step forward to be able to take care of these kids or to offer to take care of these children that are dispossessed, that don't have anyone to care for them while they're here in the United States. That is a dick move. Dick move. Now, the individuals could have been the children's parents or family members, or they could have been fellow members of the homes of adults who applied to care for the children as they fight for a legal right to stay in the United States. Doesn't matter. We're going to arrest them. We're going to deport them anyway. And then we're going to spend a ton of money detaining these children in basically child prisons. And then, of course, when we run out of that money, we're going to rob healthcare to pay for this. But that's not all. The HHS also said that it planned to divert up to $80 million from refugee programs, which are expected to see less use, with the Trump administration slashing the number of refugees admitted into the country each year. Because, you know, fuck refugees, people running from natural disasters exacerbated by climate change, to which the United States is massively contributing to, by the way. Fuck people running from ISIS, a problem that we created by invading Iraq. Fuck people running from drug violence created by our failed war on drugs. No, fuck all those people. The hell with them. We need to take money from the refugee programs now to put it into immigrant detention, which, you're not going to be surprised to know, enriches private prison corporations. There's a reason that when Trump won, the stock for Corruption Corporation of America shot up massively, as well as some of these other private prison corporations. They knew they were going to get a ton of business. And let me tell you, business is booming for these companies. They make money off housing immigrants. Now, in a statement online, Coalition for Health Funding Executive Director Emily Holubowicz alleged that her organization had long suspected that funding to care for children separated from their parents at the border was being drawn directly from the money appropriated for public health and medical research. Remember, it's the Center for Disease Control. The CDC could use that money to help, I don't know, stop the next pandemic. Or at least, like, for example, the next Ebola from happening in the United States, from spreading around. Kind of important to fund the CDC. Kind of important to fund these different programs. Even even the Medicare and Medicaid Services Administration. It doesn't make sense to take all this money to funnel it in to child immigrant detentions. But of course, that's what they're doing. Holubowicz also says that the coalition recognizes the immediate need to care for these children and families, which is true, and the need to help them recover from the trauma they've sustained at the hands of the Trump administration. But depleting already underfunded public health and research programs is not a solution. It is not a solution. Now, David Harvey, executive director of the National Coalition of STD Directors, said that while the HHS decision to transfer money is perfectly legal, it could set a bad precedent. He told The Hill, "We're not faulting the rule, but we think it's a bad precedent to establish, and these funds are desperately needed in the public health system." But Republicans don't care. Donald Trump doesn't care. He would like to privatize the healthcare system. That's what all these Republicans want to do. And now, while the funds, they say, have not been transferred, the funds being transferred had not been allocated for the current fiscal year, Harvey did say that they could have been put towards health initiatives. "We think these funds would have been spent on higher priority items. These are not dollars to sneeze at." Again, they could have been used for actual health, but they don't care. And look, the thing about this is that they say, well, we need to take this money from these programs to fund the immigrant detention. Look, we have to. No, we didn't have to. This is a man-made problem. Now, what makes this current situation different, Holubowicz says, is the administration's own choice to begin its failed family separation policy, necessitating significant transfers from both care and to reunite families as mandated by courts. She also says that there may be no end in sight, with the administration proposing policy changes that would allow for the indefinite detention of immigrant families, which she warned could have significant financial and human costs. So that's what's going on here, right? Let's get rid of the Flores settlement. Now, guys, the Flores settlement is basically what mandates that we cannot keep children with their families, since we're no longer separating families at the border, right? Well, the Flores settlement says you can put them in jail, but they can only be there for up to 20 days. And then you actually have to find someplace for them. The Trump administration says we would love to keep these immigrants, these families together in jail, in these camps, indefinitely. Throw them in there so that our friends in the private prison industry can make a ton of money off them. That's what's going on here. And look, here's the other thing. There's an irony to this. They're taking money from public health care. But maybe instead of doing that, they should take back tax cuts from the rich and corporations. I mean, they just gave over $1.5 trillion to the wealthy in tax cuts. And now they're even floating tax cuts 2.0, which is an even bigger increase in tax cuts. Oh no, but now we have to take money from these health programs to fund immigrant detention right after we gave massive tax cuts. You can't just do a separation policy that necessitates billions of dollars in funding and do tax cuts for the wealthy. But that's exactly what they've done. And now these other programs, unfortunately, will be lacking funding, crucial funding for research and development. But hey, I guess at least if you're in the Trump administration, if you're a MAGA guy, well, that's just making America great again. Okay. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me. Checking if there are any super chats. There are none. Okay. Subscribers, we are at 89,055. So thank you guys. I'm sorry, 89,057. It's an update. So awesome. Thank you. Hopefully we'll get to 90,000 very, very soon here. But thank you to all those who have subscribed so far. Make sure to go and like and share our videos. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/TUITNation. Consider becoming a patron, patreon.com/TUITNation as well. And follow us on Twitter. Until then, we'll see you guys later. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TUIT Nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow.